Hi there, my name is Duncan Lloyd. I'm the senior winemaker here at Coriole Vineyards. Coriole was established by my grandparents, Hugh and Molly Lloyd, and that was back in 1967. They bought this property. Growing up, and particularly here on site, there's obviously the excitement of vintage. You know, weekend cellar-door people dropping in for a coffee before their shift, food and music events here on the lawns at Coriole, or even the kitchen table full of mailing lists with envelopes that we had to stuff to send out to all of our customers. So I guess really felt like there's always something happening and something going on. I guess I'm very fortunate in that we do have that sort of 55 years of incredible history, but we have always been quite an innovative brand. But probably importantly for us as well, a lot of emerging or new varieties. And that story really goes back to the early days into the mid-80s when we first established Sangiovese here at Coriole, and then through to the early 2000s with Fiano, and then later varieties like Picpoul and Nero d'Avola. They've really become an important part of what we do at Coriole. You have to respect and honour that has happened, but also think about what is changing into the future. You think about the wines for the table 50 or 60 years ago. It was it's no longer just the Sunday roast. The table now is classic, English food, but also Mediterranean food, Southeast Asian food, Middle Eastern cuisine. So there really is a very dynamic food culture here now in Australia, and so the wine styles really have to look to match. So at Coriole we have, I'll say, the luxury of being able to produce a wide range of styles from a lot of different varieties and different soil types. But there are really a few key wines that are quite important for us. Chenin Blanc is as a white, which we've been doing for 40 odd years now, which really creates a white of great sort of depth and interest, and actually is a white that does very well in the cellar. So here at Coriole we have a lot of Shiraz that was planted in the late 60s and early 70s, and one particular vineyard that was planted in the sort of late 1800s. So some very old vines, and they're a great resource and really create a unique footprint of what Shiraz is from this part of the world. A favourite wine pairing. I'll try and go slightly off centre here and say mystery wine, family dinner. A lot of our family gatherings, we have a reasonably large extended family, and something that particularly myself and my brother will always instigate is at any family table will be putting a wine blind on the table so no one knows what it is, and getting everyone to try it and think about where it's from and what it could be. And that's really for us the joy of wine, is the discussion and the debate that it creates around the table. I must admit that there's probably normally 2 or 3 of us who are really involved, a couple that maybe vaguely interested, and probably most of the family just waiting for the champagne to be popped. But it's a great way to start a meal. It's a great way to have some conversation and debate about the wine that's in front of you, and without looking at brand or variety or any of those sort of known factors. So Fiano, that's been another really great variety for us at Coriole, and quite an important in terms of our timeline. Moving through the 90s, we were really interested in exploring new varieties for our region. And so we planted things like Nebbiolo, Barbera, and that is because they were the varieties that were available. But ultimately those varieties were really from the northern part of Italy. Fiano, which we first planted in 2001, really, I guess, was our first foray into those southern Mediterranean varieties, and we've never looked back. So for our Coriole Fiano, this would come from sort of 5 different picks over 3 different soil types, 2 different clones. So we get great variation. This Coriole Fiano will have lot more of those white blossom, jasmine flower characters, nectarines, stone fruits, some really nice fresh citrus characters. And you'll get this beautiful soft mid-palate, but the trademark quality of Fiano is you have this bright, fresh acidity that really still drives through the palate. And then we have our Rubato Reserve Fiano. So this comes off the original plantings, so planted in 2001. And there's a couple of aspects to why we really push this wine in terms of its ripeness and richness and density of flavour. The foremost is the site. So where we planted, it's here at Coriole. It's on some very classic structured soils. So we have sort of terra rossa, red clay soils on limestone. And so we would expect with most varieties that we see to have a wine with a bit more power and intensity. But again, still with that very bright acidity. And we get lots of things like mandarin and grapefruit pith. That limestone base gives us this really great driving acidity through the palate. My favourite grape variety, only pick one, hey? Yeah, that's always difficult. But look, I think I'll go with Sangiovese. We're in a very fortunate position now over the last 40 years to have extended our vineyard resource. And so we have Sangiovese planted on sort of 5 different soil types. We have about 9 different clones of Sangiovese. Sangiovese has this great vibrancy of fruit and this sort of delicacy of aromatics, which is really interesting. You can have this quite delicate side of Sangiovese, but then you also, it can give you, from particularly sunblock, some quite gritty, earthy, rich tannins and real power on the back palate as well. How we work with all of those parcels and how they all come together to make the Coriole Sangiovese is definitely a really interesting process behind the scenes, and a lot of fun in terms of our winemaking team and the blending that we do. Yeah, we've had some great fun over the last 5 or 6 years experimenting with how we work with the variety and looking at some different maceration times, and we're getting these beautifully ethereal and floral wines, but have this sort of great intensity and depth and lightness across the palate, and you get both the high tones and the really pretty aromatics all the way through to these sort of tertiary, savoury and sort of gritty, earthy undertones as well. And when that's in balance, it's fantastic. The vineyard sites and the soils that we have in the region, and also the varieties now that really make up that sort of patchwork of grapes grown here in the region. I think there's great diversity in McLaren Vale, particularly with our viticulture, and so there's always a lot of discussion and effort to, how we advance that for the better, and everyone gets involved, and so yeah, I think that real just passion and collaboration is a really important part of the community here.